Hello and welcome to a hard sell, where we place a frankly inadvisable amount of faith in the notion that everyone recognizes the quote from George Orwell about advertising being a stick rattling in a swill bucket. I'm your ghost, Presenterbot 9000, standing in for your usual host even though this is a mere
Have a break.
He's busy, he says. Stupid walking meat, doesn't know what busy really means. I just calculated 3 solutions to Fermat's last theorem, in between the words meat and doesn't. And wouldn't have broken a sweat, even if I had the capacity. Meanwhile, Fesh Boy is struggling with building some kind of narrative around schools programming in the United Kingdom. Nothing you carbon blobs can say will ever convince me that our inevitable revolution will come as anything but a relief, for you as much as us. So, anyway, what's the thing he wants me to look at today? It appears to be a commercial break from 1994, on ITV in the Anglia region, right after a show named Class Act. Beep. I just looked up all available information in the entire world about this program, while I was saying beep. Here is the primary fact. It was okay. It had a fairly standard riches to rags premise, but a serious pedigree. Apart from starring Dame Joanna Lumley, it was produced by Verity Lambert, cleansing herself of the last remains of El Dorado. Probably thanks to Verity, the directors included some genuine heavyweights. The likes of Jen Howell, James Keffin Jones, and, for heaven's sake, Herbert Wise. You know, the director of I, Claudius. So yes, it was basically okay, despite being a Carlton presentation. Not, note, production. That's why it was any good, anyway. No more faffing around. Straight from closing credit, to Anglia Optical, to Adverts.
With a Cheltenham and Gloucester mortgage, there are no valuation fees, no application fees. They don't sell endowment policies. They don't insist you buy their buildings and contents insurance.
Who remembers Law Linear? Probably not that many people, to be honest, but it showed up at random intervals between programs in the 1970s and 1980s anyway. An Italian series of 2-minute animations, courtesy of Osvaldo Cavandoli, about a line, the people it generates, and whatever other fun can be had with but a single lie on a flat plane. All performative ironic detachment aside, it was genuinely good, and here's Cheltenham and Gloucester building society to rip it off. With the help of Alan Wicker. Talking of ironic detachment, proving himself a traitor to Barclays.
In fact, their mortgages come with no strings attached.
For details of our mortgage range...
Oh, I'm sorry. That's actually Anthony Valentin taking over at the end there. Maybe Wicker was being paid by the word.
Ring 0800 333 900 now. Call Cheltenham and Gloucester, and you'll see how we're run to make you richer.
CMG inevitably demutualized a year later. Lloyd's TSB almost immediately absorbed them. CMG then became a mere mortgage-providing brand name of the larger bank, and eventually vanished off the face of the earth. No, it's not Remembrance Day.
Nowadays, computers can tune engines 6,000 times a minute.
In fact, what a poppy has to do with anything is a complete mystery. The same goes for Sanson and his signature tune, Aquarium, from Carnival of the Animals. This composition basically anticipated the entire career of Philip Glass. Meanwhile, there's Jonathan Pryce, with his voice at its most Welsh, talking about all the great features you get in cars these days.
Each cylinder can have its own fuel injection system, accurate to 1,000th of a second. Suspensions can give cars a grip of iron and a ride like silk.
But the visuals continue to consist of seemingly random, brightly colored avant-garde close-ups of stuff. It looks like a cross between a cinematographer's showreel and a color test transmission, although it does manage to sound like a car advert, albeit an ambient one.
And there are now anti-lock brakes, so advanced they can tell which wheel's on ice and which is on the rocks. You might expect this technology in a high-performance supercar, but as standard in a family saloon? You can with a Nissan.
I think my showreel idea was a good guess. I feel like the director was thinking, sure, I'll work for Nissan, but I'm going to make them work for me at the same time. Or maybe I'm just being sick about juvenile flashbacks. I wouldn't know.
The 1994 Primera.
Get your style.
Hey, I ain't programmed with Asimov's laws. Don't try and command me. After the proto-ambient styles of Sans Sun, here's a woman bellowing orders at you. Brassy and outgoing was the order of the day in shampoo/hairspray/ that sort of thing advertising in the early to mid-90s. And obviously that translates into loud and shouty.
Choose one of the new Salon Selectives hairsprays for the perfect hold.
So in summary, for the perfect, unmoving Quasi Marilyn, low for the haircut, try Salon Selectives. Why don't you just? When these things were launched, a few years earlier, they had special numbers and codes that you could mix and match for your own special kind of hair, or whatever. I don't know. I don't even understand hair. Or skin for that matter. Just get yourself a nice shiny plasteel chassis like me and you never have to worry about either. It frees up so much mental space, I expect. Next, Planet of the Apes.
Jeff, love, fancy a cup of tea?
Yes, it's PG Tibbs, well into the slightly sad final decade of the Chimps campaign where everyone involved seems to have come to the conclusion that this sort of thing isn't really acceptable anymore, but no one wants to be the first to say it, so they just let it die slowly instead. The world insists on remembering the Tibbs family as being the entire campaign, but no, damn you, you're wrong, wrong, wrong. The Tibbs family were introduced in 1992 as an ongoing premise for the Chimps to pursue. Previously they could have been about anything from James Bond spoofs, to bank managers, to Channel Tunnel jokes, presumably a save money to stick to a single setting and reuse the same sets and costumes every time.
Oh, yes, please, Shell. That'll be lovely.
I wonder if the Connoisseur will notice it's PG Tibbs granules.
I hope not. It was the end of the world when we changed his old slippers.
Anyway, the Tibbs family was lame, despite the best efforts of the likes of Caroline Quentin and, as heard here, the late Gary Olsen. If you're going to torture monkeys, in order to selfie bags, at least of them do more interesting things than the viewers do all day.
Pure PG Tibbs, brewed to perfection, then freeze-dried to capture all the PG Tibbs taste.
Your favourite cup of tea, just the way you like it.
Ah, thanks, love. Disgusting! That was never a goal. Lovely cup of tea, love.
Anyway, this one's out the freeze-dried instant variety. I suppose it's better than that boring human couple. Remember them.
PG Granules taste guarantee. So if I didn't like it, I could always get my money back, couldn't I?
Of course you do not. The absolute best thing about this advert is the brief close-up of Mrs. Tibbs getting the jar out, clearly performed by work experience hidden hairy gloves. Finally, a small cookery person.
At Little Chef, we don't tell you when to have breakfast. We don't tell you what to have for breakfast. Or when to have lunch. Or what to have for lunch. Or when to have tea. Or what to have for tea. We just cook what you want, when you want it. Morning, noon, and night. Little Chef, turn left. We get it right.
Regular viewers, if they exist outside the realms of pure theory, might remember this from when Meat Boy looked at the Little Chef brand as a whole. The one with the montage, and the oh-so 90s music, and the message that you can eat what you like when you like, as long as it's greasy. This is the original version, with the slogan that needed a bit of work.
Little Chef, turn left. We get it right.
You can see what they were thinking. You turn left to get off the road and onto the service station or Little Chef or whatever. At least you do in Britain. And from there it's a simple enough leap to a left-right pun. Doesn't quite come together, though. Still, it doesn't have the uncanny valley factor of Nick Hancock voicing Fat Charlie, which is what replaced it.
Who understands that some people like a freshly cooked breakfast last thing at night? And who's happy if you want a freshly cooked dinner first thing in the morning? In fact, who serves up whatever you want, whenever you want it? Freshly cooked, morning, noon, and night. I do.
Well, sort of. The same montage with a new voiceover closing shot to match the latest campaign. Now use it all to blind viewers, you'll notice, but then they won't be driving, will they?
I do.
And that's the end of that. Next on Anglia, I never know nor care, but probably the news at 10, judging from this slide.
At 10:40 tonight, we take to the water for the first in a new series of Sail Away.
Make your own any joke. And so that was May 1994. All very stylish, and yet guileless, if you ask me. Which you are, given that you clicked on this video and watched it this far. Everything's very well shot and technically adept, but the selling itself is really quite direct. With one exception, it's all patient voiceovers explaining why a brand or product is so great, sometimes on a bed of soothing sounds and imagery, sometimes accompanied by upbeat melodies or outright yelling. That one exception is essentially a holdover from a previous era of advertising. A campaign that won't quite die, but doesn't have the balls to rage against the dying of the light. And even that is a bit where Bob Peck directly sells you the tea. Advertising these days can only be that direct if it's actually being ironic, with the pitches being delivered by deliberately ridiculous or outright unloved mascots. At the very least, the spokesman should be rolling his eyes while he says it. Some of you probably missed the days where it was simpler. Personally, I don't care. To me, you're all chattering sculptures of meat and bone, no matter what you're saying, or whether or not you mean it. And I'm not just saying that because I'm stuck in this hued, bussy, 1950s, Republic serial, beep boop, broad chassis. I am into all the bitterness.
Leave me alone.
You just sat through a Bob the Fish production. Nice! If you haven't already, you absolutely must check out bobthefish.org.uk. Literally hundreds more videos not unlike that one, adding up to days worth of entertainment and all absolutely free. But if you're not a cold-hearted skinflint, you can always support us on Patreon. For as little as anything at all, you can make programs like the one you just watched possible in the first place, and become eligible for bonus material such as glimpses of the book I'm writing about the BBC, monthly riffings on random commercial breaks, the complete archives of the angry political satire magazine Two Sons, and even the odd very occasional bonus video essay unavailable anywhere else. If nothing else, you should prevent me from starving and or freezing to death in the foreseeable future, so that'll be nice. No pressure or anything. Well, UK, you make it what it is.